Hello, everyone. My name is Reverend Beth Walker. I am so pleased to be with Laurie Mueller this day, author of an amazing book. I also call her friend. Laurie, can you hold up your book for us so that we can see what it is? Excellent. The ultimate guide on what to do when someone you love dies. Thank you, Laurie. Keep that book handy because we might want to see the cover again. If you're like me, you're a visual learner. So when they go to Amazon and all the rest of the places that I'm sure you will tell us, that people will be able to find your amazing, amazing book. So you might be wondering, why are we chatting with Laurie today? We are working on a series called Why Church. And why are we doing this series? I think it's very relevant now as we find ourselves in this time and place when little positive is being said about the church, when membership attendance is in decline steadily, and when most of us seem to be in a state of reassessment about our lives, beliefs. Maybe it is a good time to ask, why church? Why believe? Why belong? And why bother? And as a church leader, I am wondering, what are the gifts that we as church offer to ourselves, our community, and God's broken world? And how do we practice being a church that matters? Now, in the coming weeks, we're going to be looking at this very important question. And so this is just part of the series. And what was very intriguing to me about this book is Laurie has answered a very fundamental question of what happens and what to do when people you love die. Laurie, could you tell me a little bit about who you are? Introduce yourself. And I'm always curious about fundamental, maybe childhood spiritual experiences. I wondered if we could dive into that end of the pool.
Yes, when you first said that to me, I thought, oh, I don't know. And then, of course, the light came on and I went, oh, of course, that did set my life. But before I do, I'd like to tell people that you and I met in one of those mountaintop experiences. We both were members of a small congregation, and a congregation that really did lift up all of our gifts. And it was a wonderful experience. And, it was great that you and I got to meet in that time and place and have that as part of our library inside us. Okay, so you want to know about how it all started for me. I was I was an only child of two people who were very religious. My mother grew up in a convent all her life and even went to become a nun. But as you can see, here I am, so she didn't. But she had a very strong Catholic upbringing, even though her mother was United Church. And later in life, she met a man who was a strong Métis, French Canadian, living on Hornby Island. And it was a small community. There was no church there. So his family, his brother, to be exact, gave property to the Catholic Church, and the brothers built a church, and the priest came over on a regular basis. And that was because of our family bringing them in. So the two people that were my first teachers in life came from that background. When I was 7, my dad died. And before he died, I used to get messages that he was going to die. And I can't tell you exactly what kind of it was, like an auditory message inside my head. And that was simply the message: your father is going to die. And I know I heard it over and over because it was very strong. When my dad was a commercial fisherman, and he was away fall fishing, and he had a massive heart attack and died. And when the policeman knocked on our door in Victoria and said that he had died, my thought was, oh, I knew it. I knew that was going to happen. But I couldn't tell anybody. Like, that was my secret. What if somehow I was responsible for that? And sometime after that, I don't have a clue anymore. It was a long time ago. How long after? My dad came to me. And it was an amazing scene. It was a rose garden. The earth was very reddy brown, and there were roses all along a white picket fence. I know, a white picket fence. And he was over here. There's the fence, here was me. And he could walk along here, and he said, I've been allowed to come and see you and tell you everything's going to be okay, and that I'm okay. And he walked around here, and there was an arch. And every time I see an arch now with roses over it, I think of my dad. And I ran to him like I wanted a hug, and I wanted to get through that gate. And he said, no, it's not allowed. Now, I was 7 at the time. So, it wasn't something I saw on TV. And it's something I held in my heart for years. And I'm going to start to cry. And this is the most public I've ever been about it. However, I have started telling people. When I first got married and was in a Bible study, I told my minister, and he said, yes, I've heard other stories like that. So it kind of validated the fact that maybe I wasn't imagining it. I never did believe I imagined it. I just thought maybe others might. So that's kind of the base for my continued participation in a spiritual community. And most times that's in the church, and sometimes it's other places, but it's spiritual.
That's a very powerful story, Laurie. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. What a blessing it is to hear that foundational story, and certainly leads us into your book. So could you share a little bit about your book?
If someone close to you dies, there are many things that need to be done and taken care of. The revised version of my 2009 published book addresses some of the changes that have taken place in this time of pandemic as well. The first chapter answers the question, what do I do now? It's got a checklist of 44 items. The second chapter is all about planning the funeral or the memorial service. And later in the book, there's a chapter on how to write an in memoriam 1 year later. Chapter 3 is a detailed tutorial with examples of how to write an obituary, and chapter 4 is the same for writing a eulogy. And some of the other chapters include speaking tips, quotes, poetry, and readings that you can use as resources in your service, tips on how to deal with difficult people at the funeral, and how to have a Zoom service for your loved one. There's also a chapter on planning your own funeral. I thought I would read you one of the poems that I wrote that I put in that can be used as a resource. It's called No. No funeral gloom, no memorial tears, no wailing, no gnashing of teeth when I'm gone. Because I will only seem to be gone, but I will not be far away. No long speeches, no black mourning clothes, no graveyard grimness. Instead, put on your bright colored clothes and sing praises, sing songs of joy, and remember me with gladness.
What a gift your book is to the community, that it is filling an obvious gap of what do we do when a loved one dies. And, there communities somehow have lost some of that knowledge over time. So I just want to thank you for noticing and seeing and offering your gift to the world. So I'm wondering if you have, in closing, any reflections about how this book has fulfilled a need in our community.
Well, you know, when I first wrote the book, I thought there are going to be people out there. It's 10 o'clock at night. They're thinking about giving a eulogy for their grandfather or their uncle or their aunt. And they're thinking, I don't know how to do this. And so they're keying in on the computer. How do I write a eulogy? And that this would pop up and it would give them the answers. Since the pandemic and since I've been talking to various groups in town and elsewhere, I've discovered that people are thinking about their families and what they can do to help their family deal with their own death when it happens. And so people have been buying this book, just like my granddaughter, to give away to friends. And one organization of business and professional people asked me to come and speak. And I talk a lot about how to enjoy life and how to be prepared, as well as the book. The organization had said, you know, it'd be great if you had a raffle and you gave away one of these books. I'll ask them if they're interested in winning a book, to write an email to me and tell me what they're going to do with the book when they get it. So one of the people, I ended up giving away 2 books because the 2 were great answers. But one of them, I'm going to put it in my kitchen where my cookbooks and some other important papers are, so that when I die, both my husband and my family know that these are the things that they need to read. And I thought, well, it's a great thing to do.
Okay, well, thank you, Laurie, for sharing those amazing insights and for spending some time with me today. It is a real privilege. So before we step away from or turn off this video, could you share more about, could you hold up the book so we can see the cover again, and then share with me how we can purchase this book?
Well, what I did was I put it onto Amazon so that you do have a choice, ebook or this beautiful paperback copy. And so it's very easy to order over Amazon. If you've got Amazon Prime, you don't even pay shipping. The thing that I've done here in Victoria is that I also keep a group of books. If you want to come over to my place, my back deck is where I autograph and have a chat with you. And if the weather's nice, tea is included.
So thank you, Laurie. So what I'll do is I'll ensure that the information from Amazon and some contact info is available for folks so that they can speak to you directly if they're lucky enough to live here in Victoria. Otherwise, they can purchase this book on Amazon.
Amazon.ca, Amazon.com, Amazon.uk.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Beth. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.